Let's jump straight into this explainer because, guys, we have an absolutely colossal Match Day 2 clash on our hands at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. We're setting our sights on Guadalajara Stadium, where the co-hosts Mexico are squaring off against a seriously resilient South Korea. If you love high-stakes international football, this is exactly the kind of matchup you wait for. Two totally contrasting styles, an electric atmosphere, and an entire stadium just holding its breath. You know, the margin for error in this tournament, it's basically vanished. As the mood on the ground suggests, this clash carries enormous implications, as both nations look to take total command. Both camps are heading into this fixture knowing perfectly well that psychological momentum and honestly physical recovery from their opening match day will absolutely dictate their knockout round ambitions. They both won their opening games, which means the stakes have literally skyrocketed.
So let's take a look at the current reality of Group A. Right now, Mexico is sitting pretty in first place with 3 points and a +2 goal difference. But right on their heels in second place, it's the Republic of Korea, also with 3 points, just with a slightly lower +1 goal difference. Trailing behind them are Czechia and South Africa, both stuck at 0. So the really crucial takeaway here is that both Mexico and South Korea completely control their own destiny right now. They're deadlocked at the top, and these upcoming 90 minutes will probably crown the true ruler of this group.
And honestly, both of these squads are coming into this tournament in brilliant form. If we look at their last 5 matches, Mexico's been an absolute offensive juggernaut, scoring 11 goals while only conceding 3. South Korea is highly potent too, netting 9 goals in that same span. But they've been just a little bit leakier at the back, giving up 6 goals. That slight edge in defensive solidity for El Tri, that could very well be the deciding factor when these two heavyweights collide.
So how did we actually get here? Well, Mexico kicked things off with a seriously commanding 2-0 victory over South Africa. Javier Aguirre's men perfectly utilized their home advantage. They were feeding off an absolutely deafening crowd in Mexico City, and they capitalized really early to settle the nerves. Julian Quiñones fired them ahead just 8 minutes into the match. From there, they were disciplined, they were energetic, and ultimately, pretty comfortable.
But yeah, it wasn't a totally perfect evening. Fast forward to the 91st minute. Despite totally dominating the fixture, Mexico's center back Cesar Montes received a straight red card deep in stoppage time. This right here is their biggest flaw coming out of matchday 1. His dismissal creates a massive structural void in their defense right before they face one of the fastest attacking lines in the entire tournament.
Now flip over to South Korea and you get this really fascinating contrast. In their opener against Czechia, they actually found themselves down a goal in the second half. But man, did they show immense resilience. After Hwang In-biem struck an equalizer, substitute forward Oh Hyang-gyu turned the game completely on its head. In the 79th minute, he secured this dramatic winner. This is a team that simply does not quit, and they clearly have the tactical flexibility to alter a game late on.
But it's not all sunshine for South Korea either. They've got a pretty glaring weakness of their own we absolutely need to talk about. They are super vulnerable in the air. In that match against Czechia, even though they dominated large stretches of the game, poor aerial organization allowed Ladislav Krejci a totally free header from a simple long throw-in. That kind of defensive complacency, you just cannot afford that at the World Cup level. It is guaranteed to give the manager a few gray hairs.
So, with both sides showing off some serious firepower but also leaving the back door open, you gotta ask, who actually holds the tactical edge here? This isn't just a physical battle anymore. We're looking at a high-stakes chess match between two very distinct footballing philosophies. You have Javier Aguirre for Mexico and Hwang In-biem for South Korea. And both managers need to make some urgent, critical adjustments. Let's break down their priorities.
For Mexico's Javier Aguirre, his to-do list is basically all about defensive reorganization. Without Montes, who is suspended, remember, he has to totally rebuild his central defense. He might rely on Edson Alvarez dropping deeper to partner Johan Vazquez, or he might shuffle the deck entirely. The absolutely crucial thing here is positional discipline. Midfielders like Eric Lira must maintain absolute focus. If Mexico's backline gets sucked into unprotected positions, they are going to get punished by the extreme vertical speed of South Korea's counterattacks, specifically the runs of Son Heung-min.
On the flip side, Hwang In-biem has his own massive checklist for South Korea. Number 1, survive Mexico's relentless crossing. They have to improve their dead ball and aerial defense immediately. This means demanding significantly tighter zonal marking from the fullbacks. Furthermore, Hwang In-biem needs his midfielders, particularly Hwang In-biem and Park Sing-ho, to establish a dictate and hold control right from the opening whistle. They really can't rely on a late second-half comeback again. They have to take the sting out of that emotional Mexican home crowd right away.
All right, so we know what the managers are planning, but what about the guys actually on the pitch? Let's get into the specific player duels. These are the physical, nitty-gritty, tail-of-the-tape matchups that will ultimately dictate the flow and really the final outcome of this fixture.
First up, we've got an absolute heavyweight clash right in the penalty area. Mexico's Raul Jimenez is going toe-to-toe with South Korea's Kim Min-jae. Jimenez is fresh off scoring a clinical header. He is the emotional focal point for El Tri. He is world-class at playing with his back to the goal, pinning defenders, and just creating space in a heavily congested box. But tasked with stopping him is Kim Min-jae, the absolute rock of the South Korean backline. Kim has a massive job on his hands. He must marshal his box with total aerial authority to ensure Mexico cannot exploit the very vulnerabilities we were just talking about.
Then out in the midfield, we have this brilliant contrast of styles. You've got Lee Kang-in, who is basically South Korea's creative engine. He thrives on finding positional gaps and triggering those blistering vertical counterattacks. Looking to disrupt that exact supply line is Mexico's Eric Lira. He's the defensive destroyer. With Mexico's defense restructured, Lira's job to do the gritty, dirty work, to aggressively press Lee's passing triggers and track late runners becomes absolutely paramount. Whoever wins this specific duel likely dictates the pace of the entire match.
Okay, take a step back for a second. Why does all this tactical maneuvering actually matter right now? Let's look at the big picture, overarching tournament implications. What do the Group A permutations actually look like going into this match day?
If Mexico pulls off the win, it's incredibly simple. A victory catapults El Tri to 6 points, guaranteeing them a spot in the round of 32 with a whole game to spare. Crucially, this gives Aguirre the luxury of resting his key players on the final match day against Czechia, ensuring they're totally fresh for the knockout stages. It completely lifts the pressure off their shoulders and drops it squarely onto the rest of the group.
But what if South Korea wins? Well then, they're the ones jumping up to 6 points and booking their historic ticket to the knockout phase. Reaching maximum points here means they'd only need a draw in their final match to lock down first place. For Mexico, this scenario is a total nightmare. It leaves them stranded on 3 points, forcing them into an absolute high-stakes, must-win showdown against Czechia just to survive the group stage.
And of course, what if they draw? A tie means they split the points, keeping both nations locked at 4 points in this sort of mutual destiny scenario. They'd both maintain their pole positions at the top of the standings. Heading into the final match day, both teams would just need a draw against their respective final opponents to advance, which effectively leaves the final group seeding completely down to goal difference.
Just before we wrap this up, let's quickly ground this rivalry in recent history. Looking at their last 5 head-to-head matchups, Mexico actually holds a slight edge, with 3 wins to South Korea's 1. But it's really worth noting that the one draw in this sequence was a thrilling 2-2 battle in a friendly back in September of 2025. So these are 2 teams that know each other very well, and they know exactly how to put on a spectacular, tightly contested show. Which really brings us to our final thought for this explainer. In a total collision between Mexico's electric, cross-heavy possession style and South Korea's highly structured, lightning-fast vertical counters, whose philosophy is going to conquer Group A? Both teams absolutely have the talent, and both teams control their own destiny right now, but only one can truly dominate the day at Guadalajara Stadium. Thank you so much for joining me to break this all down, and hey, enjoy the match.